Hey, Peaceniks. Got a very special podcast today. My brother, lifelong friend, Matt Yager, has joined us to tell his story about addiction and overcoming addiction and dealing with depression and the roads that led him and both of us into the world of drugs at a young age. We played music together. We've been in bands together. He just came down and visited me for a whole week. If you've listened to my podcast for a while, you may have heard me talk about a friend that I never mentioned by name who was going through a rough time with an addiction and was using drugs like fentanyl and had been, to the methadone clinic and things like that. And I was really worried about him, but he's come out on the other side. He looked so much better. He's back to being himself. I'm so happy, and I'm so happy he wanted to tell his story and be on the podcast. Unfortunately, we were going to do it in person, but I got COVID before we got a chance to do it while he was visiting, and I was down for the count. So 2 days after he flew back home, we did it through Zoom. But I'm just so happy he came on the podcast. This is such a special episode. Thank you so much for listening. And some quick business. We talk about it on the podcast. We talk about Kratom and how much it's helped him. If you use Kratom or you want to think about using Kratom, you can look into it. Kratom is an actual opiate, but it is not a morphine derivative opiate. It does not come from the poppy. And it is a partial agonist, so it is not as addicting as your traditional opiates, and it is not going to mess you up nearly as bad, and you're not going to overdose and die from it. It is a much safer opiate, and you can go to happyhippoherbals.com. They have a huge supply of different veins you can order. They have shots. They have Kratom Taffy. Enter the offer code THEPEACE, PEACE, as in the peace on drugs, THEPEACE15. That's the offer code THEPEACE15 to get 15% off your order at happyhippoherbals.com. Also, if you want to try a hemp cigarette that doesn't taste like shit, that's their motto. Go to sugarcali.com. They have 3 flavors: original, vanilla, mint. A great substitute for a tobacco or nicotine cigarette. I highly recommend them. Go to sugarcali.com. Enter the offer code PEACE15. PEACE15, PEACE 15, get 15% off your order of hemp cigarettes. Okay, again, I'm so happy I got to do this episode with one of my best friends in the world. We've been in bands together, we've been friends together for over 20 years, and I'm so happy that he's telling a story. Like I say, he went through a lot with addiction, and the fact that he's on this podcast talking about it, the fact that he came down and visited it means the world to me. I'm so happy I got to talk to him. I hope you enjoy this as much as I do. Matt Yager.
America's public enemy number 1 in the United States is drug abuse.
Drugs are menacing our society.
What are your thoughts on the drug problem?
I had a great time doing drugs.
So tonight, from our family to yours, from our home to yours, thank you for joining us.
This is the Peace on Drugs.
Are you down with talking about everything? Because I'm not hiding any of this shit.
I don't care. Let's go. Let's talk about what we do.
Yeah. So you just came down and visited, and we were going to do a podcast live, which I was excited about because I don't get to do those often enough. You were just here for a week, but I did what I usually do is wait till the end, procrastinate, and then I got COVID, and I was down for the count.
COVID. Yeah.
Yeah, it just hit us out of nowhere.
About a week and a half ago, so I feel like kind of bad if I brought it down to you guys, but I've already said that. And
I know you gave us a warning. You had been past the 5 days. We didn't think you'd be contagious, and you didn't have any symptoms. And me and my wife were both triple vaccinated, so you'd think if those shots were worth a shit that we wouldn't catch it. I don't know what I think anymore, but I know that I've had all 3 shots and I was super sick. Yeah, different strains.
I don't know.
I don't know if they know. I'll tell you this, that new medicine they have for it, though. I mean, I started taking it. Today's day 3 and I'm better. So it works.
What'd you take? What medicine?
It's some kind of antiviral medicine that they give now. It's not yet FDA approved now, which I think is funny because I talked to the anti-vax people like my mom, and I'm not hating on them anymore like I used to, because now I have questions, but they were so skeptical about the vaccinations. But when they talk about the antiviral medications that's also not approved, they're just like, yeah, this is out. Take that. That's way better. It's like, How do you know?
Yeah.
I mean, this is all new stuff to us. We don't know what the hell
I mean,
we're putting
really,
in our bodies.
don't you think it's all has to do with the lobbyists, you know, and like who's pad in whose pocket to what gets approved? You know, that's got to end up being some part of that.
Yeah, I mean that's how everything moves in this country is through money. If they put the money in the right pockets, you know, who got the contracts, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, and I don't know how it all works. I'm not trying to pretend that I do, but
You've heard of Roger Moore, right?
no,
Or not Roger Moore,
Roger Stone.
Roger Stone. Yeah.
Yeah.
They call him the first lobbyist.
Oh yeah.
American. Start that him and his law firm. Think what you will about that guy, but
He has a big tattoo of Richard Nixon on his back.
that says all you need to know about that guy.
It does. And lobbying is destroying our country. But
Hey, man, I want to thank you so much. I had a blast, man. Like way more fun than I thought it would be. And knew we'd have a good time, but the shows were fun. We did a couple shows.
Yeah, played some shows. First time we played together, and we figured out what 6, 7 years.
Yeah, man, and that's the longest we've ever been before we met. You know.
Yeah.
Except for when we were born to when we met.
Yeah, and we played.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I wish we had more time to work on original stuff, but we got some work done, and we got some progress done on the direction of this next project. And
well, I'll get Logic, or I'll, at least GarageBand, and be able to send you the same files. I can send you the same files from what I have now, the Band Lab.
Okay. Yeah, we'll work on some music.
Do some stuff. Yeah, man.
But yeah, so it was really good seeing you and getting you down here because I haven't seen you in forever, and I want to talk to you a little bit about that too. About you went through some stuff with addiction and fighting an opioid addiction, and I've talked about you on my podcast, not by name, but I said I have a friend that's just going through hell, and the fact that I said when I'll know you're doing better when you come and visit me, and you are.
Yeah.
You
and
said
that rang true. I kept thinking about that, and I just didn't know at the time when it was the darkest times. I was like, why can't I just book the flight and do the, just do the, I got these jobs. I got to keep doing these jobs, It's, it was tough. It was tough, and it was great to come down and hear you say, man, you're back. You're back. You look good. And, that means a lot, bro. That means a lot.
Oh, yeah, dude. You look like you reversed aging since the last time I saw you. Yeah, man. And just getting to hang out with you. You're one of the funniest people I've ever met, man. And you had me and Meg just cracking up. And that
last night, dude, early on around the fire, like I forget what I was saying. What was I saying about Elton John? Like the Crocodile Rock. All right, man, I'm gonna go with you on this. But yeah, that was one of the highlights. We had a bunch of stuff, man.
Yeah,
you guys were fun.
We were listening to Beck. Well, we ate mushrooms.
Oh, Beck was awesome. I forgot about Beck. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. We get to this one part of the Beck album when it gets really like, it's just like this repetitive, weird moaning sound. But if you follow the music, and I have on a psychedelic, it takes you to this, almost you feel like you're rolling around in the dirt and like this dirty trailer, but it's in a really just artistic way. But if you just hear the song and you're not sucked into it the right way, it just sounds like a bunch of bullshit noise. And I'm sitting there giving them props. You're like, wait, don't give him a trophy yet. You're like, this is bullshit. And I see what you're saying because it's.
Well, yeah, I was saying like every once in a while, even the greatest artist has to take a shit, and that was his proverbial shit he took on the album.
And again, I see because you had got to the point where you were talking to Meg, and then you came back to the song, and it was that. But I was still into it from the song before, so I was still rolling around.
I never stop listening to songs. Even when I'm talking, never.
Well, that was so much fun.
What a landmark album, though, right? What he was able to do ahead of time.
I know. One of the most psychedelic albums, and there's a lot of music from the '90s that we figured that has a lot of psychedelic sides to it. Like even Pearl Jam, we listened to Verses, and it got into this really tribal drum pattern with Eddie Conn, and that shit was cool, man. And you don't. I
have to look up and see who their drummer was on that album. I think it was David Breezy. He's great. Whoever it was, he was awesome.
This is cool because we don't think about like Pearl Jam as being psychedelic, even Beck as psychedelic, but those two albums are very psychedelic. And I mean, Perry Farrell, if you think about Jane's Addiction, you don't think psychedelic, but they have a lot of those elements in their music. Then you go to Porno for Pirates, it's very psychedelic.
Porno for Pirates is his other band, and I've been listening to the second album, like you told me to. I love it. It's awesome.
It's so good. So good. So we had a lot of fun in the backyard doing mushrooms. Well, we did mushrooms twice. Now the first night you did them, you got the full 8th.
Got the full 8th, and I just felt like everybody was on a different kind of trip, a happy trip. You guys were having such a blast. I didn't want to ruin the party and be like, man, I'm not quite there. I just want to have a chill kind of thing, So had to go get right, go in the room, just kind of focus.
It was funny. We were listening to the Flaming Lips record, the new one, and you were really digging it. But problem is, there was one of our friends was there, and he wasn't tripping, and it kind of throws the vibe off when someone's just talking regular conversation, and then you're trying to.
Kevin is good by him, but he's hilarious, like awesome. But there would be like, how it is. You're talking, and then you're talking about one thing, and then he says something, starts a different subject, and I'm just like, okay, whoa. It was a lot to keep track of. And I think it's probably been 8 years or more since I've done that. Yeah. So I thought I was ready, but like you said, 2 nights after that, we went in and it was fun.
Yeah, and we did less of a dose that night. We did about half of what we did the first time, just to.
We did half of what we did the first night.
Yeah.
Dude, you gave us way too much that first.
Well, so my thing with mushrooms are, and I thought you were ready, is they help you grow and they help you transition. I know you've just come out of your addiction and you've beat that, and now you're on the upward path. And I feel like mushrooms are going to teach you something. And I think it did. I think that's why you had to get away from us and you came into the room by yourself.
I agree with that. I agree, because I told you I felt like a part of me died. I can't specify what that is. It wasn't a good part, because you go through hell, when you have that bad trip, but you're going to be all right.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just really have a different way of looking at it now. I've been real motivated since I've got back. So, it's good to look at Florida and then come back here and see my reality, which I'm always trying to improve. So I think it was gold for us to do that twice. That last one was like singing Jeff Buckley in the kitchen with Meg was so much fun, because she was like, I was like kind of hitting some of the notes, and she knew all the words. I was like, you know all the words of this? So I was like, it's little moments like that. We had a bunch of them, man. Really good stuff.
That was awesome. And the first night when you went into the room by yourself, I felt like you were just in there trying to sleep and wrestling with it. I was worried about you, and I was sitting out there, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go. Matt, you left your headphones out there. It's like, I'm just going to check on you under the ruse of giving you your headphones back. And I was worried about them. And I forget that. So we don't have a spare room. The spare room is my podcast studio. So I put the bed in here.
Yeah, right.
So I opened the door, and you're just laying like smiling with your head. And I looked around my podcast studio and realized it's the most psychedelic, trippy room. I was like, this is the perfect room if you're going to be by yourself to just lay back and relax in.
Well, that pink elephant behind you, that's the first thing I saw every morning when I woke up. It was awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you put on the 3D glasses while you were here? I don't think I showed you that.
No, you didn't tell me about
that. I have 3D glasses here. Every one of these tapestries is 3-dimensional.
Maybe that's a good thing. The first night didn't have that. Oh, that phone. You get a little close. Going up. Hey, I did leave my little recording thing.
Yeah, I got all that here. I'm going to the post office tomorrow.
Such an idiot, man. I'm never flying out that early again, dude. That was so like, it was the only choice I had, but maybe next time.
Yeah, catch the morning flight at 6 a.m. from Punta Gorda. Whew.
And we had a guy that almost had a stroke 2 seats over from me. So when we landed, they had to get the EMTs on, and we were delayed like another 20 minutes to get off. But it was a good flight. Jim picked me up. Good stuff. That's awesome, I can't say I was glad to be back home. Usually I am when I'm coming back from Florida, but no, I really have fun, man. So.
Yeah, it was a great week. Too bad it ended with us getting COVID. We're still kind of coming out of it. Like I say, I'm pretty much better now. I'm just feeling a little drained from.
It's like Sgt. Pepper's ending with like a Ringo song, Nobody listening will get that, but
yeah, we were. Our friend Kevin brought up to our attention that Sgt. Pepper's is one of the greatest opening songs of any album. And then it goes straight to a Ringo singing lead on the song. What would you do if I sang out of tune? It's one of his best songs. It's one of the best songs that he sings. But I do agree that if it went straight into like Lucy in the Sky, and if you saved that song for later on the album, it would have been a better fit. I don't know who picked that, but
you would pick Lucy? I just feel like Lucy starts too slow. It's just that hard.
Well, I was just saying Lucy's the one after that, so you could just jump right into that. Or there's so many songs, but anyway, they did what they did, and that's the album. And it was just a funny thing Kevin brought up, and it was funny that you kind of got offended because you were like getting Ringo's back. You're like, just because you're tripping, and you're like, I like Ringo. This is a good song.
I read a book on the way, or part of a book on the way the flight back, and it was an interview. It's a rock critic interviewer from like 78 through like 90. Anyway, he interviewed George Harrison and Ringo. He said George Harrison was down to earth, great guy. He said Ringo, not so much.
Really?
He was a little big headed and pretty much a dick.
Really?
So I was so all that shit I had to say about Ringo. Like, hey man, I'm talking Ringo out the window, bro.
He's the
It's funny
luckiest
we were
man
talking
alive.
like too, right? Like I felt like all night I was defending Eddie. And like, there's no reason to defend Eddie. Nobody said Eddie's horrible.
Yeah.
He just doesn't like fans driving their cars through his front gate of his house trying to kill him. That was so long ago. I don't think anybody remembers that. He was a recluse for like probably 10 years after that.
Really?
Could
Yeah,
have been while
remember
their
that.
album stuff.
Could have been. Yeah. I couldn't imagine being a star like that. If you had anywhere you go in public that you just have people walking up to you, just wanting to talk to you and take your picture, like you're trying to eat dinner with your family.
You're in a Red Hot Chili Peppers cover band in California, and you go up to Seattle, and one of the biggest bands, singer's dead, and you take his place, and you guys rock. His first show, he played completely turned around. His back to the crowd. It was a transition for him. And then 3 shows later, he's hanging from the rafters.
Yeah, I remember the band kept saying they thought they were going to lose their whole band was going to come to an end when Eddie fell from the rafters. He would be swinging from the rafters across these coliseums. Freaking crazy.
Yeah. Love some Eddie. That was good. You made good album selections, man. I have to give it to you.
Yeah, well, we when it comes to psychedelics, you kind of feel the mood and you pick on and I've been doing it enough now that I've found that Pearl Jam was an accident because I was just trying to think of something from our past that we used to play music from. So I picked Weezer Blue, and Meg shot that down. So I was like, Pearl Jam.
Was that a tape or an album?
See, a record, final.
Yeah, final.
Yeah, that was a Santiago actually left verses here for us. That was a good.
I had time with that Melancholy 4-disc thing. You know, I don't recommend trying to find tracks on that when you're tripping,
especially when they're all in a different order than what you're used to.
And one of them was sealed. You said it was not open. It was definitely unopened. It was sealed.
We listened to the whole thing.
Yeah, no, you listened to the whole thing when you got it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Front to back.
Is it still worth something, even if you open it?
Oh yeah.
I mean, what's the difference? Like, if you don't open a record, is it a whole lot more?
I honestly don't know. I'm a collector. I've not sold any. I just keep collecting them. So.
Oh yeah, and I gotta say, dude, your collection's like insane. You got a really good solid diversity, but I didn't see one I wouldn't listen to, except for probably.
We got a bunch of old like Southern rock in there, like Marshall Tucker Band, which is great music. It's stuff I wouldn't put on though. It's just not my shit. Yeah. But we got a handle out of that. Will gave us his dad's collection, and we just got a bunch of stuff like that. But most of the stuff we bought, I think we had to have really. Yeah.
You know, and I know sometimes you go in places and you get like $5 deals or $7 deals, and you go grab something up. I'm just saying, I hope I don't step on any toes, but you know, Jim Croce's not going to be my first pick.
Right. I'm with you, man.
He wrote Cats in the Cradle, right? Or was that Harry Chapin?
Yeah, that's Harry Chapin.
Anyway, so moving on, we want to talk about, what do you want to talk about?
Well, I'd like to talk about some addiction, man. I think your story could really help some people. And
I think I got a unique perspective, yeah.
Because I mean, you and I, let's go back to our past. Let's go way back. We met at the trailer. I was living at a trailer, and if you listen to my podcast a lot, you've heard me talk about this trailer. There was my roommate was selling pot. We were at the high school that I went to. All the kids that smoked pot with us at high school, we had all just graduated, and a lot of the kids in our high school went off to college. Me and a few of my friends that didn't go off to college, we moved into this trailer together. One of my roommates sold pot, so everybody that we went to high school with who had graduated and didn't go off to college came by and bought pot from us. The kids that still went to school there would come when they got out of school to buy pot from us. And the kids that went off to college when they were home on vacation would come and buy pot from us. So it was the biggest hangout from all the people that went to our high school and other high schools as well.
I think I met Randy through Duval. I think Duval introduced me to Randy. So I was just coming over to get a little 20 sec or something, you know.
If you knew Duval, then that's probably where, because he was a regular there. And but yeah, you came to buy pot from my roommate, and I remember you said my guitar was standing up against the door, and you knocked right into it because it was put in.
It was laying in the floor. You know, my memory is fading these days, but no, it was laying in the floor. The door hit it. Man, I was like, oh my god, it's an Ovation. You know, it's a nice guitar. Whose guitar is this? You know, and he's like, that's my roommate Aaron's guitar. So basically, what happened was, I brought it back there. I was like, dude, you know what you have here? And you're like, yeah, I guess my uncle gave it to me. Your Uncle Tom gave it to you, right?
Yeah. Well, he let me borrow it, and when I gave it back to him unplayable, I gave him another guitar since then.
How I remember it is you played 3 songs, and 2 of them were covers, and they were decent, and one of them was an original song, and it was really good. And you were 19 at the time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, okay,
or 18. I was 18.
I want to play some music with this kid. I don't care if he's got any other songs. I had my 4-track at that time. We'll get into what happened to that, but we had that, and we started recording that song, and best friends, man. We just kind of hit it off. Had a lot in common.
Yeah.
Except moving park. Yeah, that's about it.
Been playing music and doing drugs ever since. I remember our first band that we tried to start. I don't even remember the name of it. It was you, me, Rusty, and it was
2 stories.
2 stories, because we were like, we have each have a story.
Is that you don't know when we went to the old house recording studio?
Yep. And but I remember our drummer Rusty, he was more of a straight edge, and he was a really good drummer. But he told us, and this is kind of just how immature we were. But he said, could you imagine if we do this project, but we do it with a straight head without drugs? And then my response was, well, what if we added even more drugs to the mix? How much more crazy could we make the project? And that's because I think a lot of times we get influenced by the music that we listen to, and we think that it was such a party, and out of a crazy party came, it was Kurt Cobain's drug use that led to Nirvana, when that really wasn't what happened, right? Kurt Cobain was driven to music separate than his drug use. His drug use ended up getting in the way of the music and ultimately destroyed the music.
Stardom is when he really became a drug addict.
Yeah, exactly.
He did stuff every day just about when they toured Europe for Bleach, but stardom is what the pressure and that killed him,
Exactly. So I think we misinterpret what it means. Like the idea is, if we would listen to Rusty and been sober and really had our head on, that doesn't mean that you can't smoke a little joint for inspiration or do whatever you do when you're not working on music, but working on music sober, getting successful. Then
it's not like we lost all our abilities when we smoke. We're talking about pot here. We're not talking about getting drunk and then, smoking pot. And the whole ridiculous thing about it is Rusty used to be the biggest head I knew, and it was only like 2 years earlier than that. I'd go to Rusty's house. He always had it. He always had the weed. We smoked in our band room. We had a band at that time with Nathan Bedell, Wooler. Bedell, man. Got bubble guts. So what ended up happening is Rusty got in trouble one day, and he totally sold me out. He told his mom, said, that's Matt's. So every time I came over and she smelled that stuff down there, she'd go, Matt, you need to call your daddy, get out of here. Like she never believed it. I didn't have any argument to make it that time, but man, he was a bigger head than I'd ever been. So for him to tell us, you don't need that. How about you listen to us play on it first, and then we'll go from there. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just looking for a little inspiration. We want like I gotta have this.
The biggest problem that we had with our drug use was, and honestly, it was alcohol ended up being the biggest problem with drugs I had, because alcohol.
That set us back more than anything.
It did, because when I would get high, or if we had some Adderall or some Vicodins or something like that, I would use those drugs and immediately want to be creative. But if I got drunk, I immediately didn't. I wanted to go try to meet people and socialize. Yeah. And also because I was kind of antisocial. I know you were when you were that young also, in a way, but kind of introverted, trying to be more extroverted. Alcohol was a very easy medicine to change you from being introverted to be a little more extroverted. And both of us wanted that, to meet girls, to talk to people to become more popular. So throw some alcohol on it, and boom, we're talking. We're and I feel like I missed a lot of that in high school. I was so high all the time. I was so introverted writing my songs.
But you got caught up so fast, because like, you remember not long after we met, it feels like I got that little open mic deal at Jack Mason's. And I remember you were a little hesitant getting up there to play your songs, but once you did, everybody loved it. You remember that?
I remember the bartender, the guy that played before me was awful. And she's like, thank God someone else. And I went up to play my song, and it was one of my originals, which were very sad and drawn out. They weren't developed as much.
It was a phase, right?
Yeah, it was. As soon as I started playing and singing, I heard her go, oh, fuck. Just like she was immediately disappointed. But the people
here listening that knows Aaron, how good he sings, how great he sings now, it's just phenomenal. Back then, he was stuck trying to find his voice. So there were like flashes of like greatness. And then there was some times like, hell, I have them all the time now still, like where it just didn't sound like my best. but you were very young and you've turned into a great singer.
So. And that's what was cool about it. I think as I started young enough to where I didn't mind the criticism. Like if I would have started as an adult, I would have just been like, yeah, this ain't for me. But I was so young. Right. And also I had people like you and people that were there to see me specifically that weren't sitting there going, oh shit, they were digging it. So that's who I went for. I was like,
I was always encouraging you no matter what, because I knew it was going to click one day, you know? And then I remember you scared me at Boardwalks. You were thinking about quitting music. Did you say something like that? Like
I've
around
said
that time?
Throughout my life.
Yeah. But I don't know what made you think that, you know, but man, we had fun and we played some great open mics, man. And you got some good people out there to play. Yeah. Those years were great. 07, 06.
They were great, but we did turn it into a party before we had done the music to deserve the party. We were celebrating something before it happened.
Boy, do we have some stories, you know? We could all get together when we're like 60 and write a memoir of all of us. And it's called like, you know, Keystones and whatever, all of us together. It'd be a hell of a book.
We got to do a memoir.
It'd be in fiction because people wouldn't believe it. They'd be like, you guys that do all of this. This is insane.
I mean, I remember the one time we were playing at just a cover bar called Boardwalk Billy's in Charlotte. Someone gave me some ecstasy. So I eat ecstasy before the show. And man, I tell you, once the ecstasy hits your bloodstream, you're just like, oh, I feel so good. And I'm just, my jaw is just grinding back.
I remember
and I'm playing and singing my heart out, thinking we're sounding the best ever. And Matt's looking at me like, you know, it's not bad. Like you got the energy, right? But you're a little too much. But then Mark, who was our sound manager at the time, he's older than us, and he comes up to us and he's just like, Aaron, I don't know how much cocaine you've done tonight, but your jaw, you need to get that under control. It's like, I haven't done any cocaine, man, on my ecstasy. He's like, oh, we're all
had a lot of mescaline in it, you know, as they did back then. I remember taking one, having kind of a bad trip that had too much mescaline, and I was going to that Pink Floyd Laser Light show at Discovery Place.
Oh, yeah. That's
cool. It was uncool, bro. I was like ready to go.
Really?
And I was with a girl, so I had to play cool. You know, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm good. You know, like seeing this pig is like coming to eat my face. But yeah, man, like I thought you were going to go in that time that we, what was it? I think it was an open mic. We played with Omar. The only time that, and I've done this a bunch of times, that you showed up and you were only able to do a few songs with us, or maybe as the night progressed, you were drinking OJ and vodka, was it?
That was our show. I just couldn't play halfway through. Y'all had to play without me. Yeah. I was so fucked up.
And then we were just gonna like jam, and you're like, no, you can't jam. And I'm like, no, we're gonna jam, you know. And then you started playing Santa Monica. Yeah, I'm still dreaming of your ghost.
I remember once, and y'all were doing a free jam, just a jam without me because I was too fucked up. And then at some point, I heard the free y'all style, and I was like, I'm just going to go up there and make up lyrics and just sing over the top of it. And I ran up on stage and just started kind of screaming into the mic. And the manager just walked up and just looked at us and just shook his head. I was like, this is a train wreck.
It was like Mars Volta when they were like, you know, teenagers with a bad PA. We just, yeah.
And me with no nearly vocals that guy has.
No, that was one of the first gigs, but hey, we played probably 100 after that or more. They booked us back, partly because we worked there, but friends with the people.
Yeah. But that was so much fun though back then. So anyway, though, yeah. So our drug use led us down some fun roads, but also some dark roads. And
maybe should we talk about what drugs I was doing for instance back then during that time?
Yeah.
And the reason I left, it was we love to drink. You know, you work in a bar, you drink. You know, it's just what you do. You get off and turn into getting double Jack and Cokes. And then I just have to have some blow. I would have to have some blow. Have to do that. And that's all I did pretty much. And the occasional like blunt be passing around, I'd hit that, you know.
Yeah, alcohol and cocaine. And I
pills were not in the picture. That was not a thing. Last thing you want to do in Daytown or that area, you don't want to get Xanax. You know, those are downers, man. It's a downer, bro. But so I was always about getting back up. You get drunk and they're like, "Up, fix it. Here's Mr. Fix It. Get right back up." Yeah. And then that was a negative thing for me.
I remember when we worked at Boardwalks, there'd be times there was a guy in the kitchen. I won't say his name, but he would work in the kitchen and he'd sell coke, and we'd all sit there and get drunk, and then we'd go back in the kitchen and be like, yo, we need to get, go holler at your boy. And If they were too busy though, he'd be like, I'll get you when I can get you. I remember many times we get smashed and you just sit there by the kitchen door waiting for him for, if it was an hour, it didn't matter. You were not moving until he came out of that kitchen. And I'd be like, well, he's not going to be out for a while. It's dinner rush. So we just go keep drinking and go on the paddle boats. You were just sitting there and wait. Like I can't function.
I don't think then we had our guy that was named after the cartoon character.
No, we did not.
You know, okay, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because he was my guy. And it was so bad. It was so unfair. I would pester him until he finally came through. And then I'd complain about the quality of it, you know?
Oh, yeah, because it wasn't good, though. And you know what's funny is I ran into him a few years ago.
Alcohol is the worst drug for me.
Alcohol is. I remember a few years ago, I ran into the cartoon man. And it was when I was living back there and I hadn't seen him in years. And I was like, yo, what's up? Are you still in the game? He's like, yeah. So I got a bag from him. And I tell you what, it was the best shit I'd done in forever.
I think my bassist guy, he still deals with him on that. So.
Well, the funny thing was I got a bag from him, hadn't got one in years. He gave me his number again, gave me a bag. It was the best shit I'd done in forever, but that's how they operate. Like, I haven't seen him forever. Let me give him one of the good bags. So that way get him back in the loop. And then it's going to be back to having shit. That's how they work. They're going to have.
It gets you back with it. Right. That goes for any drug. Yep.
Any drug dealer. I remember when I was in New Orleans, man, this random guy came up to me. He was like, yo, I got that blow. I was like, I'll buy some, man, but I want to try it first. I was hammered. So I follow him in the bathroom stall. He pulls out a baggie and I tried it. It was fucking great. I was like, all right, I want it. He's like, all right, I'm not going to sell you out of this bag, though. I'm going to sell you out of one of these. They're all the same. I was like, nah, man, I'm buying the one I'm trying out of. He's like, well, then that'll be $10 more. I was like, no problem. And I paid more, but I got good shit.
We didn't mind paying extra if you just give me the good shit. You know, like, don't give him pander me this baby laxative that I'm going to have a big problem with later. And I'll be able to hang out, you know? Give me the good stuff.
Also, I'm not trying to put bullshit powder up my nose that I don't need. Just give me the shit. And I'll pay more
some
for
of it was real bullshit, right?
If it was, but I remember the one night with we'll call him the cartoon man. I was living with Will, and we were both really drunk. I was like, Will, I'm getting a bag of blow. It's on the way. And Will's like, give me 3 bags. I was like, 3 bags. He's like, 3 bags. I was like, fine. So I get 4 bags of blow. Now you got to admit, these aren't full grams. You know, these are bullshit grams, but there's still a lot of blows. 4 bags. So I buy 4 bags.
Gram each. They were a gram each for it.
They were supposed to be. We never weighed them. I guarantee there's probably like a half or something. But either way, 4 bags. And by the time he shows up, Will's passed out. So I dump all 4 bags out on the table, and I try to get Will up. He won't wake up. So I just start doing blow by myself. And then I start, you know what happens when you break out the recorder and you're going to try to write and record a song when you're all jacked. It takes forever to accomplish anything, to get one thing down, to get it perfect. And I sat there till 11 o'clock the next morning, did every bag of blow that we ordered by myself. I couldn't even get Will to throw in on it because he didn't do any of it. I did all.
Where were you at, Will's house?
Yes, when I lived with Will. And then the worst part is doing that much blow and then the sun coming through the curtains in the morning and you're trying to fucking go to sleep. You got to work at 9 o'clock the next night. That's too early.
I had a similar experience at Will's where I was there all day by myself with just half beer, some of them with cigarettes in them. You know, I'm like trying to find a beer because, you know, that's to come down.
Yeah.
But I had blow and I was by myself, and that's a bad scenario. Just
it
a
is.
bad look. But you mentioned, you know, writing on blow or coke or whatever. We've only wrote a handful of songs, me and you together, but we did get one accomplished that one night. I don't think we drank a lot. Winter's Kitchen.
That's the only one that we really accomplished on blow. And I think it was cool because we had a cool concept. I was reading a lot of Billy Collins at the time, which is to take mundane things and make them, you know, put life in them. So I took something real mundane, like let's write a song about the refrigerator. So we had the context and we just wrote. So the chorus was, it was, if you're feeling empty, I can replace what's gone. You found your closest company has burned everything you've loved. Talking about the stove, cooking everything. What is it? You will always run, but you'll never catch the day. That's that whole refrigerator running joke was in there.
Keeping you around for your frozen cold water trays. And then you say traits at the end.
Frozen water traits. And then there was something about holding the pictures as if I could forget because there's pictures on the fridge. It was all just like, it sounded like a serious fuck you love song, but it was just
some really cool lyrics in there that like to do that kind of, we're trying to, you know, what do you call that, analogy, you know, metaphor or simile, like it was great the way we worded it.
Yeah, it worked,
people think it's a love song immediately, you know.
Exactly, and that was the idea, is just to disguise it, because if you don't want people to know it's a song about a fridge, but at the same time, you do, because if they kind of get it, it's kind of cool. But that's the thing, is we had a direction, so the cocaine worked that night. But for the most part, I find cocaine just drives you, crashes you into walls before you can take the turns.
It's a celebratory drug. It's not good for innovation. It's not.
It's not. And I find like opiates are both. Like most of the time, opiates can actually add a lot of creativity, but over time, I feel like it destroys creativity.
Once you've graduated from Vicodin and Percocet to harder things like powder, fentanyl, things like that, those things are not productive at all. You cannot write and make anything good because your brain is such a working so slow. Yeah. I found this out the hard way. So
yes, that's why cannabis is always my go-to. I don't think it doesn't, like, for me, it doesn't create new, like completely new ideas. It kind of takes ideas I already have and just makes them a little more fluid, and I'm able to work with them a little better. Psychedelics sometimes have breakthrough things, but I do find sometimes that the dreamy world of a mild opioid, like a Percocet, back in the day, at least, it would open up some creative doors that I really enjoy.
Oh yeah, I wrote finished many song on that. Because it gives you that. That's why it lies to you. It's such a slippery slope with it, because it does make everything just feel all right, man. It just kind of fixes it. And the doctor explained to me that I went to see about Suboxone. He said there's 3 types of people. He's got people that can take this and take it for their pain that they have. And when that pain is gone, they take it and they never want it again. They never need it. And then you got your ones like myself, take it and something goes off in your head. And you're like, oh my God. I've never felt like this good in my life, this free. When this comes back around, I want some more of this, you know?
Yeah.
And then luckily I didn't seek that till later in life and have a problem till that was first time I had it would have been 12, 13 through a dentist. And then 32 is when I started taking the harder stuff like Roxy's, Roxycodone.
And so Roxy's is where you first started getting like your actual addiction, where you had withdrawals.
Yeah, because those are strong. It started out taking a quarter of a 30, which is nothing, to an addict. But that got me messed up. And, I knew, okay, this is going to be a problem. I might need to slow down, but it just never quite happened. It just felt, I can't lie to you, it just felt incredible. Because it was a Percocet, but without the Tylenol, and it was small and it's fairly affordable. And, man, it fixed any situation. But what happens when you do that is you lose all your coping. All your coping skills go out the window because you got Mr. Fix-It right there.
Yeah.
And the crap, the crap we have to go through to hunt it down when it's not around and you need it. The poor thing is you don't just need it for your brain, you need it for your body with opiates. Mm-hmm. Opiates a double whammy.
Yeah. Yeah. I know at the same time you were going through that, I was starting my Vicodin addiction, and I'm thankful that mine only got as hard as Vicodin. That I had the person that was giving me Vicodin was just giving them to me because they had a big supply, so I didn't have to pay for them. That's what I got addicted to. I didn't have to, because had I had to start looking for it from other places, Roxy's would have been what was available, way more than Vicodin. So I would have found that, and then my tolerance would have got higher. And then what happened with you is what happened with almost anybody who got addicted to Roxy's is you found Roxy's in short supply. In the mid 2013, 14, they started to become less and less frequent on the streets because the government put a stop to the prescriptions.
Well, I also got more of a tolerance. See, I think it'd be good to go back and talk about when I moved down.
Okay.
I moved down with you in 2012. I don't know why that I couldn't tell you that I'm coming down. Hey, I ate my last Roxy on the way down there. And I didn't know. I don't know why I didn't know do the research to find out that I'm going to go through some withdrawals and it's going to suck. But what made it better was, we were out playing shows. It was Florida. We were drinking, that kind of hit it. But man, I went through some dark times and I detoxed that whole time. And I didn't tell you, man, because even though you're my boy, I didn't want you to be ashamed of me, because that's how our society shames people that have drug addictions. And I felt ashamed about that, and I couldn't talk to you, but I know I could have talked to you, and you could have, it would have been a lot easier on me,
Definitely. I mean, and honestly, I wish you would have, because I was just starting my addiction. Maybe if you would have talked to me about yours, I could have helped you through yours, and then maybe never got into mine. I've been like, oh shit, this is what's happening.
I remember I started kind of getting a few from your hookup,
Yeah. And you found me another hookup because you were out. You'd ask everybody.
But you said one day, I think we were going to look at we're doing the trails or something where the swamp alligators are. And you said, hey man, you got to ease it up, man. That's my hookup, She only got so many a month, you know, he's up. I was like, whoa, bro, I don't know anybody else, you know? Because like what it literally was probably two or 3 months. Well, the first time we got up with that person.
Yeah.
I think I've already went a month or something, but didn't want to talk about it. You got to talk about it. Got to talk about it. But the problem is the stigma in our society now makes you feel like shit. Makes you feel like you're a lesser human being. When it comes to opiates, you know, heroin, things like that. These people say, and they send you to methadone clinics. They see the horrible places. It gets you on another drug.
Let me ask you this.
Suboxone is one of the worst things you can take.
And if it does help you though, and it keeps you off of street drugs, I would you say it's better than being on street drugs with the current situation with the streets?
I would.
Yeah.
I would prefer. There's one. You got Suboxone. You got Subutex. Subutex doesn't have the blocker, so you could still take drugs that you're used to and get high on Subutex.
You know, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, with Suboxone, it blocks it, so you literally cannot get high off anything.
Got you. Yeah.
It does give you a similar buzz, but
stop some other things. They're having a lot of success in Canada, but only allowing it. And last I read about this is in small areas is with Dilaudid. You feel with Dilaudid because it's a much more enjoyable high. I think that's hydromorphone, maybe.
Is Dilaudid? Because when I had Dilaudid, I was 15, and the dentist gave it to me because I had all those root canals.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really have a frame of reference. But oxymorphone, which on the street is called Pandas.
Yeah,
what is it?
Opana.
Opana. That is some dangerous stuff.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
it's got morphine and the other stuff.
I've done it, and I would. That's the highest I've ever been on any opiate besides fentanyl. And fentanyl was a lot faster acting. The Opana lasted for a lot longer, and I was almost just as high. I was nodding out. Like
that was my mountain. It was Roxy's, then the Opanas. We're talking about Opanas $80 a pill. Like, this is just insane, man. This is how people go broke. And then I graduated to fentanyl. There's a liquid version. Someone came to work in the same building that we worked in, and we hit it off. And I had no idea. But the guy, he had a little Afrin bottle, you know, that you take for your clogged up nose. And we found out that we both like to do opiates. And this fentanyl, man, it was like starting all over. It was like taking that first perk when you were like whatever age, you know. And it worked for a good while. I was functioning and handling my job, doing my thing, and feeling freaking amazing, you know?
I remember that. That was right when I was going through my withdrawals in North Carolina, because I moved up there. I'd stopped taking it cold turkey, but every once in a while I would hit you up and like help me find something because I just need something some days. And I would.
Was that around the same time?
Yeah, I would take an oxy and I would make it last 2 or 3 days, and then I'd try to quit again. And it was when you came to me with the fentanyl, you were like, it's as much as we want, whenever we want it, and it's affordable. And that's when I decided to quit completely, because I was trying to get off anyway. That's why I moved up there. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go through it. And I faced the flu and I fucking stopped. And that was the last of my addiction. Not the last of doing opiates. And I always tell people that, because I'm not an abstinence only person. And I do believe that if that's how you want to live and that's better for you, by all means, be that. But for me, I still enjoy an opiate here and there. And when my jaw was broken, had the hospital known I was a previous opiate addict, they would have given me 0 painkillers, opiate painkillers. But I didn't tell them that. And so they gave me 2 prescriptions of Percocets for 2 weeks each. And they offered me a third one. But by then my jaw wasn't hurting bad. So I didn't take it. I was like, no, I don't want to get back there. So I just quit. So it was like, but any addiction specialist would tell you that's impossible, would say I'd be right back into my addiction, but I wasn't, because I'd been through it and I didn't want to go through it again, you know?
Yeah. You made a smart move, man, because things could have been a lot different if you would try fentanyl. I know you would have loved it, you know? And it was different, you know, went in your body different than like the powder. And it was so cheap. We're talking about $40 for a couple days supply.
Couple days. Wow.
It's way cheaper than anything else, you know? And like I said, it was like starting over, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, you take a Percocet, it's like, oh, it's not quite like it was the first time. This was incredible. Yeah. But when you're, I think this is a good time to go to, you know, opinions on why people become addicts. And my opinion is this: any certain psychiatric have neurosis, they have things in their life, depression, things like that, and they self-medicate. And I believe that's what I did. I truly did that my whole life. You know, I wasn't addicted to one thing, you know, before the opiates. but I always had a little something here, a little something there to keep me going, to give that ASC, that altered states of consciousness, just to change the way I'm thinking. It was my coping skills, I didn't have coping skills. That was it. Just find a little bit of that, drink some beer. And when I found the fentanyl, I was like, boom, that was all I needed. That was it.
Yeah, you're always trying to find that the inner peace that you couldn't find, and I've been there where you're chasing it, and I've seen it with you with alcohol. Alcohol, the problem with alcohol is it'll lead to inner peace for a short time, but there's a very small window when you start getting over the hump of being drunk, and now you want to chain smoke cigarettes or pick. Where's the booze at?
The fourth beer and the fifth beer, it's like
yeah,
there's two different people,
Exactly, and you take a drug like an opiate, and you can take it, and you can be even keel, inner peace, feel that joy for hours on end. Depending on each opioid, it's different and lasts different lengths. I think that's one thing opioid addicts find that other people don't need. People that don't enjoy opiates don't make sense to me. But I've met many people who just don't like the way they make.
That's what my doctor said. He said some people take it, they don't want to feel that. It don't work for them. But my thing was always this, man. It's like I thought since I was young, it's like this is something that makes me feel great. Why can't this be legal? And they put it in a safe, give it to me in a safe, administered in a safe way to where I can have to take a small dose a day to just get, be where I'm at. And they're doing things now like with ketamine, they used to be called Special K. It's making it affordable now. And this is for PTSD, it's for depression. And my mom suffers a lot of that. I've talked about maybe getting her into the program and trying it with her. It might not be a bad thing, man. It's something we had a little experience with back then, and I don't want to go to a K-hole or nothing, but
Well, that's what it is, actually. See, the K-hole is there's some misinformation there, because when we were growing up, we were told you didn't want the K-hole. The K-hole is when you go into another dimension on ketamine, and when you do the clinics you're talking about, that's exactly what they do. Is they put you into a K-hole. I
didn't read into it enough. I need to, but they keep you there.
They keep you there. You go into a whole nother dimension, and I've heard different people talk about it. They say it can be extremely transformative, and you come and you have to take off work the whole day. You have to do it twice a week. Like they put you on a plan. It's for here that you had to pay up front. It was $4,000, and I thought about doing it, and I felt like I deal with my depression, how I deal with it, and I feel like for me, I was like spending $4,000 gives me something else to be depressed about. I don't feel like I feel like it needs to be more affordable. Right now, it's an elite.
I'll double check on it. I'll send you the link again. But to me, it read $153, and you can get in there and get started. But you got to take they got to talk to you first.
Right. This was in Atlanta.
This is not Atlanta. Atlanta's the one that was really expensive. This one popped up on my phone when I was down visiting you. So I'm thinking maybe there's something low. They have them all over the country, they said.
I'll look into it. But the one I looked into did have a little bit of confusing advertisement that was like you could do sessions for like 150, but when I went in and talked to him, you had to do the $4,000 program up front, and then
after that might just be the session or like just the consultation fee, right? And then you got to pay the thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I'll look into it. But honestly, I mean, for me, I find mushrooms help me a lot. When I have my mushroom trips, I really usually come out feeling a lot of positivity from them. And they said that these places that have decriminalized psychedelics are having the same, if not better, they're having more positive results from people doing psychedelic drugs like psilocybin mushrooms versus ketamine. Ketamine is also addictive. Ketamine has its own set of problems. But the reason ketamine's now available everywhere is because it was already FDA approved for medical use. So they were able to easily transition it from a drug that they used during surgeries to a drug they used to help people with depression, whereas psilocybin is a Schedule I substance with no medical value from the FDA. So it's a lot harder for them to open up a psilocybin clinic versus.
Is Ibogaine, does that have psilocybin in it because it is a psychedelic?
No, it's a completely different psychedelic than psilocybin. I've never done it, but they say it's not in the same class. It's a completely different experience, and actually can help rewire the brain from things I've read, but also can have more negative impacts. Like if you have heart problems, it could potentially cause a heart attack, where psilocybin and LSD cannot. So it needs to be monitored a little better. And you know a funny story about why Ibogaine is a Schedule I?
It's illegal in the U.S.
It's a Schedule I substance, so you know who's to blame.
It's ridiculous.
No, it's Hunter S. Thompson's fault. Because he just went on a rant, and he was talking shit about, I don't know if it was Nixon, but it was one of the candidates that he was talking shit about, and he basically said this guy's he called him an Ibogaine addict, and nobody had heard of Ibogaine, didn't know what the hell it was. He said he's an Ibogaine.
No such thing.
No, there's not. If you just called him
Maybe
that,
Hunter S. Thompson would take it every day, but not your.
right? But he just threw that label at this candidate. So the candidate looked into it and had to denounce the claims that he was an Ibogaine candidate. And it was because of that they put it on the Schedule 1 substance, which I would like to think Hunter S. Thompson wouldn't have said if he would have known that would have happened. But he also didn't give a lot of fucks.
Well,
so.
I read several different sources on percentages, and the percentage of people here in America that get better, they get clean and stay clean, is only 6% on opiates. And down in Mexico is where they have the Ibogaine clinics. They monitor you for 72 hours. So they take care of you. And those people relapse. But over 50%, 40% or 50% never touch it again. And that's a big difference. And I think it's worth our government looking into that and like making it safer if they can. You know,
I believe they are looking into it. But see, a lot of things in our country right now are happening on state levels. The federal government is just not really budging, and that's because they move so slow. Because every bill, like the MORE Act that just passed in the House about cannabis, then when the Democrats pass the MORE Act, well, then the Republicans go, well, if you're going to pass that, we want some crazy new gun control stuff attached to that bill.
Right?
Yeah, it's a piggyback laws, and then it won't pass because each side put too much garbage that has nothing to do with the original bill. So that happens constantly. But the states are passing like cannabis. Cannabis is a Schedule 1 substance that the FBI could kick down any business they wanted to. But because of a law Obama passed saying that we're just going to let the states do what they want on that, states are legalizing cannabis. States are decriminalizing drugs. States are decriminalizing psychedelics, and states are allowing.
Because our generation is starting to be the leaders. They're taking over DC slowly but surely. You know?
Exactly. And most of them at least understand cannabis as being not a threat to our social fabric. And when they realize we were lied to about that, they're saying, well, what else have we been lied to? And I'll tell you one thing, I don't give a fuck what you think about methamphetamine, crack, or heroin. If you are doing it for your own personal use, you're not a criminal. Doesn't matter what the drug is. If it's your own, that you are not a fucking criminal.
I agree 100%. I agree. It goes back to our rights, what we do in our own home or whatever. It shouldn't be illegal. First of all, there's just too many things out there that need more law enforcement, more attention. But we both know why that is. It's because they get all the seizures. They get the seizures. They get the money. They get to keep this. It changes the whole economy of those little towns, those little police towns. With one, they got 4 patrol cars. Now they got a fleet of them. Because they busted some meth addict. What I hear the other day, two towns over, they busted. It was $1.5 million of just methamphetamines. So that's a huge epidemic. That's a big problem. It's a big problem up here, probably down there too.
And
everywhere.
Another thing I like people to think about with the war on drugs is we're not just talking about drug dealers and drug users that are caught up in this. Imagine a legal immigrant that's just over here trying to make money, saves a bunch of money up washing dishes, and is traveling and has $1,000 cash on him. A cop can pull him over, take that $1,000 and say, this is drug money until you can prove it's not drug money. And the immigrant has to look at it and say, I risk deportation if I go to court. Also, the lawyer would cost more than it's worth that $1,000 to get back. So they just so the cop just gets to take money from people legally. It's legal highway robbery is what it is. And they do this across the country. They also do it when it is drugs. They arrest someone for cannabis, like they did me on the way to Bonnaroo. And they say, here's the deal. You're going to pay us a $2,000 fine and we're going to take it off your record. It's as if it never happened. All we want is your $2,000. And that's legal highway robbery. And it happens every day.
Yeah, and it's been happening since the 70s. You look back to American Gangster with Denzel and Russell Crowe. That was based on a true story. They make you a pariah. If you don't take the money, Russell Crowe was the good guy. They seized like $1 million and he didn't take it. He wanted to turn it in. And everybody in that police department hated him and wouldn't work with him because he was an honest cop. The rest of them were dirty. And that's the environment that's been created. And it's dangerous for us.
It has. And if you look at the big cartel people that were supposed to be busting, the people that actually are the head of these horrible organizations, a lot of them, all they have to do is give up a certain amount of their profits to a bust or a seizure, and they let them keep operating. So all the people that are in charge of the gangs are not getting busted, but it's the poor people. They'll go like, hey, you're going to take this car. We're going to fill the cocaine. So to fill the tires of the cocaine.
A lot of them, because we don't know their names. We knew Pablo Escobar's name because he could have done the same thing, but he had a problem where he liked killing people out on the street. He just did like whatever he wanted, and they just couldn't make a deal with that guy. That wasn't going to happen.
And also, you've always had a situation where you have different cartels fighting each other, and if one cartel pays the right DEA officer or organization the right way, they'll take out their rival to help them,
exactly.
and then they'll make it look like they did a great bust when they were watching both of them the whole time.
Ozark kind of touched on that a little bit, right?
Oh yeah. And Ozark's complete fiction, but I mean, there's a lot of things in there that they did get from reality. But the biggest fiction,
Sicario, right, from with Benicio del Toro.
Yeah, that's probably a little more. The problem with Ozark that they really blew up is all the murder and mayhem that happened in the United States. It doesn't happen that way, not in suburban white neighborhoods, because they know if they operated that way, the DEA would shut them down real fast. They don't have that.
I was bummed when her brother died. You know,
spoiler alert. I'm just kidding.
Cousin. Yeah. Anyway, it was just over the top. Right.
Yeah, the whole show gets over the top, but it is reality. They said that people that the Mexican cartels, like when you listen to like a president talk about the murderous Mexicans that are coming over across the border, well, the true heads of these cartels, who are the true murderous cartel members, they're when they come over here, they're not murdering people. They're living in these huge houses, operating under the radar. The last thing they want is anybody looking into their shit. It's the poor. The very poorest of the Mexicans that are coming over here with drugs that they're trying to make a little bit of money for their family, that they actually will turn them in on their own cartels. They'll say, go bust them, and that'll give you some headlines in your paper. Meanwhile, we're going to move this tractor trailer full of shit right down this other road, but you're going to get this one little car. And then that poor little kid's going to spend the rest of his life in prison on taxpayers' money, by the way. So you talk about wasting taxpayers' money. We need to legalize the trade. And somebody brought up a good point. Well, what do you do about these cartels? If you legalize the trade, then all of a sudden they can have legit business and they don't get punished. Well, we need to be less focused on punishing the wicked and more focused on how do we stop the murders from happening. If you look at alcohol companies, a lot of the big alcohol companies today actually their profits date back all the way to Prohibition when they started. And it doesn't matter because they're not killing people still. And that's what matters. They're no longer assassinating the leader of the Miller gang doesn't go assassinate, So that's what we got to do. Legalize the trade and figure out how we regulate it,
I mean, the fact that it hasn't happened yet does with the cartels, especially, kind of shows you that they're probably putting money in pockets for people that are in our government. And that's a scary thing. But to think that doesn't happen, I think you'd have to be naive.
You'd have to, because we can stop terrorist attacks from happening.
Take out their enemy.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I just think, when you look at like 9/11 happened and we beefed up our security, and we haven't had anything like that ever since. You have fentanyl killing people all across the country, and it keeps happening. Well, someone's letting that in, and it's not. I mean, it's a lot hard. There's not an exact analogy there, because it's gonna be harder to get hijack planes than it is to bring in a van full of a small amount, because fentanyl, 1 kilo is equal to 50 kilos of heroin. The stuff.
Yeah. And it's not fair, because the people that aren't even fentanyl addicts, and maybe I know a guy that took, he was prescribed his Xanax as he needed them, and he ran out and he went on the street to get some, get a bar or whatever. He got one that was laced with fentanyl and he died. And that's just fucked up. That's just bad. Like when I told you I was coming down, I was like, hey, can you grab a little Molly or something like that, or some shrooms? I forget what we're talking about. He's like, man, dude, I can't. And he's nowhere around, because like all it is laced with fentanyl. It's too dangerous to even try it. And that just blew me back, man. Yeah, it's on everything.
I know,
you don't know if you're getting. They think, hey, I'm gonna take this cheap thing and I'm gonna make this a whole lot more stronger and make more money.
I know we have people dying of ecstasy right now because of fentanyl. And here's the thing: when it was outlawed in 1985, you could buy it. Before it was outlawed in 1985, you could buy it in a club with a credit card in a lot of clubs, and 0 people died from it. It's a safer drug than alcohol. 0 people were dying. And yet they outlawed it. And as soon as they outlawed it, other drugs started infiltrating it. Like a DM was the first one, was killing people. Now it's fentanyl killing people. All we have to do is give a safe supply, or at very least do what Spain does. They've decriminalized and they offer government paid for testing of all drugs. And you can send in your drugs and they'll tell you exactly what's in it. And because of this, 95% of street drugs in Spain are pure. And we could do that. If you don't, they're still profits will still be in the hands of the cartels and the gangs. But they'll be safe. That's why I say regulate.
They want to be legitimate. They do. Yeah. They don't want to have to deal with this. They have to kill people and have to deal with the police. They want to be legitimized.
Yeah. So Matt, one thing I wanted to ask you about before we wrap this up, because I wanted to get into a little bit about because you talk about the stigma that you felt when you were an addict, and I'm wondering, when you go to these clinics, do they treat you well and respectful, or do they talk down to you?
I was surprised because they were very respectful. I did intake in a place in Charlotte, and I met a nurse practitioner that actually brought me to tears, man. I mean, I was in a fragile state, you know. I think it had been a couple of days, so I was real emotional. She said, you know what? It might be okay, Matt, for you you need methadone. You might need to take it for the rest of your life every day. And I never thought about that. And that might be, you know, you could disagree with her or agree with her. At the time, I thought that's an amazing idea. Maybe that's just what I need. But I know now that's not what I need, because I got stuck in that for a long time. But man, those people really, they are great. They're great people. But the problem is this: when you get out, because I went in for just Roxy's early on, and they put me on Suboxone or Subutex, and I did the program, never failed a drug test, went down to nothing. This was like 2016, I think it was. Went down to nothing, and I got out. But they give you no plan. They don't talk about, like, hey, Matt, what got you into drugs? Like, you maybe or you're bipolar or you're depressed. Like, there was no plan for me afterwards. I had to come up with all that myself, and I didn't at the time. I went right back to doing Roxy's within 3 or 4 weeks. And then they just escalated from there, and then fentanyl knocked on the door. Fentanyl is what made me go back, you know. Yeah. But they do treat you with respect, but not like anywhere else. There's still that stigma, and they still look down. You can tell you look down upon. You're lesser than everybody else.
It's hard to. Also, their hours are weird, right? You have to be in there by a certain time, or are they?
Oh, dude, they got to be there at 4:30, and they got to be there till 12. You know, in Gastonia, and they told me that Gastonia is one of the busiest ones in the state. So it used to be a wait, you know. And man, I'm sitting in there, I'm listening to people, they're like, man, you know, heroin was rough to get off of, but methadone, man, this stuff's impossible to get off of. I've been here 8 years, and I've been there like a year at that time, and I'm like, what? You know, I'm like, I got to get out of here. So I detoxed out, you know, and with Kratom's help, I got better, man. And it wasn't that bad.
That's great, man. I do think Kratom is a huge help, and it's helped a lot of people. This is why the DEA reversed their thing, because of the petition, and why so many people signed the petition, because it wasn't just your average people using drugs. I mean, we've had a lot of wars in the last 20 years, and a lot of veterans who have come back with PTSD and are self-medicating with addictions have switched to either cannabis or Kratom. And if Kratom's helping you, why the hell would you take that from somebody to put them back in? Because Kratom won't make it into the streets illegally. It's not strong enough.
I've not heard one negative story about Kratom from anybody. All I've heard is heroin addicts that got off of it, did Kratom for a year or two, and they were done.
Yeah.
You know?
And you know what, if you look at the history of Kratom, it was actually outlawed, I believe, in Taiwan, because they were losing too many sales of their opiates, because people were quitting the more expensive opiates to switch to Kratom.
Did I tell you that, or you read that somewhere?
It might have been both. I think you might have told me, and I looked it up.
Isn't that crazy? It's insane to think that. You know, it's like we want the country that makes the most like opiates. You know, of course they don't want the thing that's going to get them off the opiates, right?
Yeah, I'd like to think the Kratom industry is so big now that they actually have a little political sway, that they could actually put up some money.
Oh, there's so many different brands, man. And now you can actually read on the back what you're getting, you know, what it's going to feel like. You know, we know a lot. I mean, in the beginning, you had to go in there and talk like you were buying stuff for your plants.
Yeah, now you can just go to happyhippoherbals.com and enter the offer code ThePeace15. A little ad.
Right here, ladies and gentlemen.
He's got some there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I got the COVID cough.
Gotta say, out of all the Kratom that I've tried, this is the powder. This stuff is great. Absolutely great. Thank you, brother.
You're welcome.
I'm going to be ordering some online very soon.
I think you can order pills too from them.
Yeah, I like capsules better.
I do too. They're just easier. You don't have to do a bunch of mixing and stuff.
And they take forever to put together, you know, on your own. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, so I think that the getting off of opiates and getting on a Kratom has been a great thing. And like you said, and so here, another question I have for you, because when you said you got off methadone the first time, they didn't give you any like, you know, continued therapy to figure out why you became addicted.
The first time I got off of
Subutex, yes. So this time, now that you're off it again, and you even said when you were down here, yeah, you're off the drugs that you were addicted to. You're no longer an addict on that, but you still have a lot of work to do. What are you doing to ensure that you don't end up back where you were?
So I've got somebody in my life that's giving me a lot of support. She has two brothers that were like serious heroin addicts. They were intravenous users. You know, I never used needles and anything like that. So she saw a lot of crazy stuff coming up. So there's nothing I could tell her that would turn her away from me. So she's been a big support. But I realized on my own that I need to start going to meetings. You know, if I'm going to be successful, the further away I get from my addiction, I forget how bad it was. It's just how our memory just goes. You know, I know that's going to happen, and I want to be in these meetings to be reminded when I need it. When I, you know, just go to a meeting. You know, I've seen this before, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. I think it's going to be something I'm going to try. And you had a good point. You said don't go to the AA meetings.
Well, the NA, those 12-step programs are very abstinence only, to the point where they'll judge you for using kratom. They'll judge you for smoking cannabis.
No,
but
I'm going to use kratom. I use kratom now. You know, I'm going to have a beer with my buddies every once in a while.
Exactly. So I recommend trying to find a non-abstinence only program. And a lot of the programs,
non-abstinence only. That's what you call it.
If you find a program of people that were opiate addicts who still will drink and use other drugs that they manage well and avoid opiates, those are the kind of people you can relate to and want to talk to, be able to have a beer with, but not lead to, because the problem is, well, actually, like my tattoo artist talks about how he avoids alcohol because for him, alcohol leads to cocaine, leads to heroin. So he just does kratom, and that's his thing. But he got judged for a guy saw him at a kratom bar from an NA place, and he was like, "This is bullshit." He's like, "Also, how'd you see me there? Like, you were there, motherfucker." Like, so
I've never been judged for kratom. If I did, they didn't say anything, and if they did, I wouldn't give a shit.
Well, look into the group.
This saved me. Like, I'm functioning right now. My brother-in-law has never had an opiate problem. He wanted to get something to just give him a little extra step and a little extra, you know, through the day. And he's now taking kratom, and he loves it. You know, and he's taking very small doses.
I like the way it feels. It's
to me, the coffee family, man. You know, it's you can get a good rush. And it's not something that's going to incapacitate you from driving a vehicle or like doing your job good, you know?
Yeah, I enjoy it. And like I said, it is kind of like coffee gives me a little energy, but it's a warmer feeling. I feel a little warmth across my body that coffee.
What the opiate, that thing that we'll never forget that the opiate did for us. That's why I would relapse for that one feeling. But kratom takes care of that. Yeah. But do you understand? The further I get away from it, I know I need to have a plan. You know, I need to do meetings or something that's going to keep me remembering how shitty that time was, and I never want to go back. Because right now, without a doubt, if it was laying on this table right now, it's off the table. It's not a problem.
Well, let me tell you this also. If you ever do have a relapse, if it ever does happen, and I pray it doesn't, but if it does and you wake up and just feel regretful and miserable, like you might go back down the road, you can always just hop on a plane and come down and stay here for a week just to separate yourself from that relapse.
Yeah. Anytime. I appreciate it, man. Well, one of the best things out of all this, I'm telling you, I've really not been social for a while. You know, I've just been getting back to getting myself together and being with you and hearing your positive words that I look better, that I'm back to being me. I know you're not going to bullshit me. So
I'm not.
Love you, bro. Thanks for that encouragement. I know you checked in with me from day one to today, you know, whatever, and made sure I was okay, you know. And you're worried about me. So I appreciate everything you've done.
I love you, man. And I really, I love that you're back. I got my friend back.
I'd hate to have to do that for you, but if that shit ever happened, man, but I know it won't. You're too smart. You know, and it's not like only dumb people get, you know, addictions, but you've seen it, what it did to me, and that'll always be in your mind. So you know.
Well, I like to say it's more that I found myself in too good of a place to get there, but you never know what life will throw at you, so you never can say never, because life.
It usually happens with people that have no other alternatives. You know, right after a breakup, they move into a new house or things like that. Big changes in their life. Someone close
to them dies. They lose somebody they love. Something like that happens, and you never could say you'll never do that. So people that's why I don't like the idea, like the stigma against drug use and the judgment. It's like, do you know what they've been through? You've not walked in their shoes. Like some of these kids, they lost a parent when they were when they were just coming of age. They lose a parent.
Yeah. Can I go look in their closet? I bet you I'll find 10 things that are way worse than any drug, you know, that they've done. So don't judge me, man.
Yeah.
Like Brad Pitt said in True Romance, you know, that James Gandolfini, he's like hitting the bong, you know, he's like, don't condescend me, man. You know, I got this.
That was a good the Brad Pitt part.
That was before he was like a superstar, you know, like before.
Yeah, just a stoner. That was funny.
I think it said that in the credits, like bong smoker. But anyway,
I think it's really brave too. You just telling your story, man, because it's important. Like I say, that for people to understand that all different kinds of people go through this, you know. And I think because most people that go through this and people that get better don't ever come out and talk about it.
They don't talk about it, man.
And then nobody knows. They don't realize.
We have a obligation, I believe, to get our stories out, because maybe somebody hears somebody talk about it and they don't identify with that person at all. But we keep doing this, people like me, then there's more people for them to find and say, you know what, my story's just like that. So I can do this. Because you feel like you can never get out of it. That you'll have to always sneak and be this thing underneath. And I was functioning for years, man. And I didn't even know how miserable I was, you know. But now I feel things again, and it's great.
That's amazing, man. I'm fucking so happy for you. And it was so much fun getting to hang out with you this week, dude. Playing music. I wish we would have got into some more recording. I wish I wouldn't have got COVID. But
hey, man, it's all, I wish you wouldn't have got COVID. But man, seriously, like we didn't get to a few things, but man, I had a blast.
Hell yeah. Like, I want you to come back down. Come back down this summer sometime, into the summer.
Into the summer when it starts cooling down? Bet. I'll be there.
Oh, so like November.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, hey, let's run my birthday. Maybe we can do Thanksgiving dinner.
Hey, do that. That'll be fucking great, dude.
Right? Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Cool. When are you coming back up here? You coming back up here during the summertime?
September.
So
okay. I'll be in Asheville September, and I'll be in North Carolina, like Charlotte area.
That's right. You're going to see the show, right?
Father John Misty, Nashville.
I'm going to try to go that with you.
You should.
Because you played the album that night, and I was like, this is good. This is really good.
Hell yeah, it'll be a good show. And it'll be a good time in Asheville.
Yeah, Asheville is always fun.
Fuck yeah, dude. Well, hey, thanks for doing the podcast, and thanks for coming and visiting. And I'll be talking to you this week.
Okay, buddy.
All right, dude.
Later, man.
Bye. Later. Peace out. All right, peace, Nicks. As always, if you like what we're doing, go to Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star rating. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram at the Peace on Drugs Podcast. If you want to subscribe to our newsletter, go to www.thepeaceondrugs.com/subscribe. All right, we're going to let Twiggy Branches take us on out of here. Peace out.
You pay for what you get. You pay for what you get. You pay for what you get when you align yourself with the Phobia jet set. Bet head, bet high, moves hard, bucket in mind. So I'm sending up east with cocaine and smile, and watching the sunrise, watching it all at Sunset Boulevard. Are you my doctor? You pay for what you get. You pay for what you get. You pay for what you get when you align yourself with the Phobia jet set. Bet head, bet high, moves hard, bucket in mind. So there, sending in a breeze, and by the grace of God, I'll see the sunrise. I'll see the sunrise. Are you my doctor? Are you my dealer? Are you my doctor? Are you my dealer? Are you my doctor? Are you my dealer? Are you my doctor? Are you my doctor? for what you get. You pay for what you get. You pay for what you get. You pay for what you get. Are you my doctor? Are you my dealer? Are you my doctor? Are you my dealer? Are you my doctor? Are you my dealer?